This is their spring split, done and dusted. Really just backs against the wall at this point.
Yeah, and so I think, again, this has kind of been the theme already of today, as we do see, Arcane comment on the Malphite, but where these junglers tend to play around has dictated a lot about the early game. I mean, naturally, of course, right, but there has been, I think last game was probably the less shown out of sort of the junglers, but ultimately, I feel like if you're prioritizing, you probably go around bot. Having that Braum as well as having the Nautilus does give you options there. I think, interestingly, though, now that you're in the Annie versus Amelie, you can actually look for setup in the mid lane with the Wukong. So maybe even more options for the side of Frank than they did really have last game.
Rest is looking for the Q this time again, but Solokil not having any of these, learned from his past mistakes.
It does just walk away. I like that you bring up the fact that there is a bit more ganks up this time for the side of Frank. Even last time, you saw Gemini spending quite a lot of time mid, so wouldn't be surprised to see mid lane be kind of hotly contested, especially kind of ahead of this first dragon, because it seems like if you can manage to get your bot priority naturally and then force it through mid, it does allow you to take away that first dragon and kind of put yourself towards that win condition nice and early.
I like how Solokil in this matchup takes his E first so he can dodge from the Arcane Comet in level 1. It's kind of a cool little thing to have done. It does definitely make sure you stay a little bit more healthy. And having a look bot, it looks like for the now at least, Jinx and Nautilus will hold priority in this bot lane, similar to last game, but they honestly got quite a lot from it and are just throwing around the mid game, and you have to look for them to do something similar. But mid lane looks a lot better this game for Pretender than it has in the past couple.
Yeah, I think that Annie has kind of been, for the most part, just a facilitator. Hasn't really found any big carry performances. Has, found nice ults off the back of the likes of the Gnarl. And this game, though, up against the Sylas, can bully pretty heavily and, maybe be the one that takes this Frank lineup all the way to the grand final.
Yeah, Jimmy did opt for the second win as well as the drone shield pickup at the start of the game as well. So is able to sustain through a decent amount of this, but still the damages got to stack up.
I think Annie, one of the more pressing sort of mid laners when you are sort of that melee champion, as her attack range is something, I want to say it's something similar to Caitlyn's.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the highest in the game. And so just even weaving in some auto attacks, as well as every time you get that first strike proc, if you can get a Q off as well, that damage really does quickly add up. And you're kind of seeing that already. Obviously, Jimmian is able to pick up quite a lot of that CS, but it is a large health gap for Pretender.
Is stacking up pretty nicely here for him, especially with that first strike as well. Solokil once again pretty low, but without any additional pressure, you kind of feel like Malphite runs out of mana just before you can hit the point where you are maybe looking to force your opponent to base or just chunk them out so much that maybe you can pick up a Solokil after. If they could get pressure up there, maybe they could look for something, but it feels like Gemini will need to relieve pressure mid or maybe even look for something bot. After the Dawn Shield nerf as well, it's much more difficult to play champs like Sylas that have a very weak early game here, especially against, as you mentioned, Annie with the long auto range.
Hollow looking, he will not find Jimmian just yet. It is Flash, the stun will land, and Flash follow from Hollow. He is going to pick up first blood, so already a great start onto Frank, looking better than last game, and they even won it.
Yeah. Well, nothing really to say there. It feels like Jimmian just ended up with his lane in a pretty bad position. Obviously was chunked out very low. And remember, this is your mid lane counter pick. You saw the Annie, although maybe could be a flex. You're not really expecting it with the Kai'Sa, though. Opts into the Sylas, fully knowing this, and unfortunately is already pretty significantly behind off of that.
Yeah, big pickup for Frank. First blood going their way. And Catalyst picked up for Pretender first base, which gives him so much tankiness and so much more, sustain in the lane overall. And it's really not going to get easier for Jimmian at all in this laning phase.
I really like the Catalyst as well. Just being picked up so early up against the likes of the Sylas and the Viego. They kind of need to gank mid, and it's just a lot harder to gank when your Annie has so much additional health to sustain as well. Ooh,
Hook does miss here. They won't have anything really to follow up with Shun being so close, but nice dodge out.
And top lane matchup, I think last time Rest was actually up CS from what I remember after that first recall, but this time is down a little bit further, so maybe Solokil has just played those first few levels a little bit better. It does look like the same first resets come through though, so not expecting it to play out that differently.
Overall, game state has started to stabilize a little bit. Dragon is up for the taking. Gemini is looking pretty deep in the bot side. Frank Esports bot lane are basing as well, but no one is really around in bot lane at all. Well, everyone's just going to back off.
Yeah, most likely would just take too long to do that dragon by yourself, long enough that either you fall too far behind in the tempo jungler, or even that Frank might just be able to path out of base and contest it. So instead, it does just go back to those Krugs. Maybe we'll look back at it in the future. The rest is going to crash this wave. And one thing we kind of saw maybe with Malphite in the past is looking for a gank top at level 6 with that Malphite ulti. Here, though, haven't seen any pressure towards that. Lots of members around mid, even Rest coming down as well. Just a battleground right now.
Both teams have the
it's a
same
3v3. Rest is level 6, so this is really bad for Frank. They really should try back off, and they do. So everything is okay for now as the ARAM begins.
Yeah, everyone was just kind of waiting in the wings there, and ultimately just kind of ends up being neutralized. Both teams too afraid to pursue that skirmish any further, and now for CFO.
Slater in trouble, does have to hook away. Now Gemini looked at is going to be exhausted. Can they find the stun through Winter's Bite? It's one proc away, he will get it with that, and they are chasing him down. Flash is not available for Jaego. One more ability, but they will not be able to land it. So nice to have been able to get away, but again, it's just showing so much pressure here for the side of Frank.
Yeah, that slow chase from Braum really just doing wonders for Frank. They almost get their kill on the Gemini, but just barely. Not enough damage to follow it up with. CFO, they all started with them, you know, trying to get their mid wave in, but they just don't have enough wave clear to be able to do that quickly enough.
No, certainly don't. And the Viego, I think, managing to live there on 1 HP is actually pretty important, right? If it was another kill picked up by Hollow, would have a very hard time contesting any of these, you know, dragons or heralds. And you want to be able to put yourselves on the board here as CFO. Want to be able to take those skirmishes, especially when you have a Sylas. Kind of feels like you wouldn't be doing the champ justice if you do just try and sit back and scale for the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, does feel like it needs to make something happen. Otherwise, Frank, I feel like, I don't know, who do you think scales better actually? Because for the side of Frank, the only thing they've changed out is the Kai'Sa for the Zeri.
I'd say Frank scale better. Just, I mean, I suppose a lot of it does just come down to how well the ADCs play the fights. It feels like a lot of it is just that, but I don't know. I guess it's just more consistent for Frank. At the same time, if you can find, you know, big Malphite ult into big stolen Gnar ult into Jinx resets, there is always the way for CFO to win the fight that way. But I think just pound for pound, it should probably be Frank. Although,
oh wow,
solo kill is solo killed by Rest.
Yeah, I wonder how that really happened. I mean, you lose his flash and Malphite lost ult, but I mean, if you've traded those two, you expect to live, and it is now Rest finally in the 4th game getting the better of solo kill.
It's always so weird seeing Malphite get solo kills. He just kind of sits in the bush there. I think solo kill, I guess, just doesn't know he's in there. It seems like he suspects it, but yeah, Rest just goes straight into flash. Yeah, doesn't quite manage to dodge the unstoppable force, and that just spells death for the Gnar. Really just not good at all. You can tell he's just really upset about that. That sucks.
Yeah, he could have flashed any direction except that one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so unlucky though, but really good for the side of CFO to get this Malphite some early gold, because it is ultimately, again, this Malphite again, what is predominantly just a full AD team comp. Obviously, Kai'Sa offers a little bit of AP damage as well as Annie, but getting armor on the Malphite early will look so good here for the side of CFO.
Yeah, Frozen Heart already completed is going to mean that he's going to win out in a lot of these trades early on. Still, Kimtech Drake is alive, almost 10 minutes in the game. Neither team has really made a move for it. Same with the Rift Herald as well. Both of them kind of just wanting to stabilize, and you have to feel like that's a bit worse for CFO.
Yeah, CFO not finding any impact with the Sylas early is a little surprising. Obviously, Sylas still goes for the Rod of Ages build, so it doesn't really fall off in the same way it used to, but you're kind of expecting a champion with gank setup and with such strong skirmishing to be involved in some of these early fights. Instead, looks like it will just be a very slow game. And maybe CFO are happy with that. I mean, while I think it's probably better for Frank, maybe CFO just want to make sure that Shun gets the items he needs and then kind of play off him in those team fights.
Yeah, as we say that, the Rift Herald is started up for the side of CFO, but Frank Esports are doing a good job of shoving in this mid-wave and making sure that they can try and contest, but actually Hollow's not interested at all. He's turning his sights to the Dragon instead.
Will just be that Dragon for Herald trade, most likely. I wonder where CFO are going to use this, because it feels like if you base, go all the way bot, it's going to take you a very long time to be in position to really get a lot out of the Herald. Same time, if you use it top, Do the plates on Malphite really do that much? Probably not. The Rod of Ages now completed for Pretender as well, so has that very early, obviously with the first strike. Probably has a bit more gold.
Overall, still very even. You can see Frank with a slight gold lead just from, I guess, solo kill CS lead that he's managed to build up, even though he did have that kill traded over to rests. Overall, Shin now looking towards the bot lane turret plays. There's no one really here to contest him either. This is a bit odd.
It looks like he's just going to grab 2 here, which is very nice pickup, especially when the Herald can probably be dropped down there later. And I guess Frank, maybe just were forced into resetting in the 2v2, and now there is potentially, some vulnerability around that bot tower.
Yeah, it's a bit weird to see. You would have thought that Kaiser Braum would win out slightly in the 2v2 bot lane, but turns out that Shin and Slater are just a little bit too strong. Really getting the better of their lane counterparts. Totally pretty much exactly evened up now with those plates as well.
Looks now, Slater is entering this bot try, and Gemini is not far behind him. Uses the hook.
Oh, Hollow's here
very
too.
early. This could be a 3v3, but I think Jimmy gets down here earlier. And Gemini, I think he really wants to find an angle to herald this tower before the plates go down. Obviously, a lot of it is dependent on how mid lane is going, and Jimmy, well, he doesn't have the Rod of Ages yet. Looks like he is the one getting priority.
I think I want to say something, because last time that we saw Eminem on the Kaiser, sorry, we do have a little bit of a fight break out here in the mid lane, but should just be the tippers used as we've seen Pretender do, very, very often. But last time, sorry, we saw Eminem on this Kaiser, it was actually against CFO, and he kind of, I want to say, entered his build where he went Collector, even though he was against a bunch of tanks.
Oh, we hate to see that.
And I don't think he will this game, because obviously you can build both Navori and Phantom Dancer out of the 2 longswords, but I really want to look and make sure that doesn't happen, because it'll be so hard for him to ever play in these fights if he does that. But we see stun up in the mid lane. Jimmy will be going down. That's a 2nd kill now found for Hollow.
Yeah, he just continues to find these angles. Really good gap close from him, following up on the stun from Pretender, and Jimmy, and once again being punished in the mid lane.
He was, yeah, just takes a bit too much damage. Now, very interesting here, CFO, they swapped their bot lane up to top, and this is going to allow Gemini to herald this tower without as much of a counter coming through. And we'll see, Jimmy, he's just so low from trading in the mid lane. Again, down that Mythic, and then once he'd used that W on the creep, it's just flashed on by Hollow and taken out, and definitely not what you want out of your Silas counter pick here.
Yeah, overall, CFO doing a really great job of shutting down Jimmy and nice and early before he can find those skirmishes that Silas's love. CFO choose to drop the Rift Hill down top and put a couple extra plates onto Shin, but a lot of that gold is shared. Sentry finds the hook.
Hook land onto Kaiwing. He's getting so low, but is able to walk out for now, and Hollow doing his best here to clear the minion wave as Eminem finally arrives. But I think that's something like 4 plates now is gone over to Shun, and that feels so good as this Jinx.
It looks like he grabs this first tower here as well. It's going to deny a couple extra creeps, but it's now so accelerated.
Yeah, CFO now have a 1k gold lead, and most of that is on Shun. Like we've mentioned, he already has the Kraken stack completed, and he's going to be well on his way to his 2nd item as well. And you really love to see that from the Jinx, I feel like that getting that Infinity Edge nice and early on just gives such a boost to your power level.
I think especially if you can get it before Kaiser really gets the items to threaten you as well, it does just feel like you can consistently put out more damage until that point where, Eminem, much like last game, is going to start looking for those assassinations on the Shun.
Yeah, Shun's actually not opted for the IE 2nd, instead moving towards one of the Zeal items. I wonder what that's going to be. I feel like you get a lot more value from the IE early, but
I think we see a lot of Jinxes just go for the Hurricane, I think.
Yeah.
Have to see though.
Hurricane gives you a bit extra splash damage on your rocket launcher, and that does feel nice, particularly when you are against people that do like to get in your face, like the Na, Wukong, and Braum. So not the worst pickup, but will lack a little bit of just isolated one-on-one damage, of course.
Yeah. I can definitely see it making sense, especially because CFO, they kind of lack a bit of wave clear, so having that little bit of extra shove power as well really does come in handy for situations like these where CFO, they're trying to set up around the next dragon.
Yeah, only 20 seconds away now, and it's CFO who currently have the better position. Rest is top without TP, so he is going to have to walk down. And eyes as well on what ult Jimmy manages to steal here. I think it's very important for the fight. I think ideally wants the Gnar, but we'll take a couple of the others. Rest is here now. CFO, they're contesting for this mid wave.
Ender has flash available with his Tibbers. If you're going to be keeping my eyes on him to see if he can find that crucial engage. But really that could come from any of the members of Frank, you know? Even Hollow and Solo Kill, they're in the area. Solo Kill very close to his Mega now as well.
Yeah, Glacial is used here onto Rest. He's not really taking any damage, but Pretender finds a nice flash Tibbers onto Shun, who is now at 1 HP. But it is Rest finding a double unstoppable force. Eminem doing what damage he can possibly do to this Malphite is going to take him down. That's 1 for 0 thus far. Another kill is found down on the bottom side, and it looks like somehow, again, Frank is just better in these team fights.
They just out-executed once again. It feels like the big team fight ultimates from the side of CFO did not connect. And I believe it was Pretender. I think he got a flash ult onto Shun. And while he managed to survive, it puts him so low and takes him out of the fight completely. So Frank, while the gold lead is even, you have to feel like they're in such a good spot now. 2 dragons to 0 and major sums advantage for the next fight too.
And now Jimmy is 0-3 on the side. Let's take a look at how this all unfolded. Kaiwing opens it up with the Glacial Fissure onto Rest, forcing him to take as much damage as possible. And then Pretender on the side gets so much damage on the Shun. It gets instantly cleansed, but just that damage is enough to take him out of the fight completely. And from then on, it's really just history for Frank Esports. Solo Kill finding another huge Nara onto 2, dishing out so much damage onto the backline. And Frank really just showcasing once again how good their team fighting is.
I'm a little worried for the Silas in this game now. You can kind of see there. Was just the side of Frank outperforming pretty much across the board. Only support really in the favor of CFO there. But I mean, we saw the Silas, I believe it was picked in game number 3 yesterday, was it? But it really felt like it didn't find any impact there either. And I think it is a little bit of a bait because even when there are the good ults, it feels so hard to get the snowball going in this sort of meta when there are just so many champs that either shut you down in lane or those 80 carries that kind of shut you down in team fights.
Yeah, and once again, we have to look towards the Viego as well. We've definitely, hated on it a lot in this series, and I think this game is not going to be an exception. It hasn't really accomplished anything so far other than just clearing camps, but he hasn't even got really a sizable CS lead in the jungle matchup, so you really have to question why this is being picked. And Frank Esports, they're just continually abusing that fact.
Yeah, it's definitely, an interesting sort of champ to pick up and keep playing. You lost game number 1 with it and played it game number 2 and lost it again. And here we are with the 3rd game in a row, but Rest will use that unstoppable force. Solo Kill actually getting really, really low here. Is going to get some movement speed here as he kites away and Kaiwing arrives. Now, can they look for the turnaround? There is no flash or ult available on this Malphite, and damage coming through. Super big Death Rocket leaves Solo Kill on 1 HP. Honestly, one more auto attack and Bramble might have even taken him down, but does manage to live, and that's kind of a tragedy for Shun.
Yeah, Slaytree though.
Fight coming out here too.
Yeah, just gonna disengage this time. But Frank Esports, they're playing with fire, trying to get the kill on the Rest, but it takes so long to kill. They try their best. Shun tries to get a cheeky kill on the back end of that, but just barely not able to finish off Solo Kill. That could have been, a big kill for Shun. Overall, despite Frank's, big teamfight win earlier at the Dragon, the gold lead is still very much even. Mostly off the back of the sheer amount of plates that CFO were able to pick up in the early game.
Yeah, well, it's just so much gold that went over to Shun so early on, but now it's Eminem who hits those 2 items first. I'm still very, concerned about the Silas, right? It's a champ that normally doesn't really function that well unless it finds a snowball. Now, did manage to get some gold in the side lane there, but wow, Shun's actually up 1,200 gold over Eminem, all things considered. Just pretty nice. And Solo Hill's fallen very far behind as actually the lowest gold other than the 2 supports. Still manages to find pretty solid impact though.
Overall, both ADCs have 2 full items completed. Shun does have the Berserker's Greaves as his little bit of an edge over Eminem, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to mean all too much. Baron is up in 20 seconds, Dragon up in 145. Frank definitely feel like they're in the driver's seat despite the goal lead.
Looking here, Shun will get engaged on. He's getting so low. Hollow will find him. That's another shutdown onto Hollow. Now it's a 4v5. What can they find? Glacial Fissure, used onto Rest. He will ult here. Eminem's getting low as well. They will find him. It's a 4v4. What can Solo Kill do? He just arrived. He gets 1. Shun is on a reset as Gemini here is trying to do what he can as this Kaiser, but is not able to find anyone of yet. Slaytrue will also go down here as Gemini tries to kite. Doesn't have access to ult, but does have the flash. Looks like he'll go down as well. Baron is up. There is no Kaiser damage, but with Na going mini, you should be able to do it.
I think they can, and we really see in that team fight, despite how far ahead Shun is, it doesn't really matter if the whole side of Frank commit to him. It's not like some of these other ADCs like the Zeri or the Xayah, where you're just so safe with all your lifesteal and self-peel. Jimmy, and maybe he's trying to look for something here. The Mega Death Rocket is still available.
Yeah, Rest has his TP up and he's spawning in very soon. The Baron is still, not quite too low enough, and now Shun's in the area. This could be the turnaround for CFO.
Yeah, they're kind of splitting their attention here as Jimmy and will find that Gnar ult. Jump out, does solo kill, but this Baron is so low. Is it going to just reset? It looks like for now, Rest will keep it aggro, but it does reset. So no Baron, but importantly, a lot of gold is going to go to the side of Frank after that team fight.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tempo loss for Frank as well. The Dragon is spawning in 15 seconds, but while that's coming up, let's take a look at how this all happened. You can see Pretender just beelines it towards Shun, who's quite clearly out of position. And even though he had the cleanse, there's once again so much damage put down on him. So, Hollow rather is able to finish off that kill. And from here, it's just easy pickings for Frank. CFO, they try their best to turn it around onto Eminem. Good pick there from Rest. But there's just not enough damage to follow up. Even with Gemini finding the reset, they just don't have the power available to finish off Frank.
Oh, and Baron looks like it was started up by CFO again.
Yeah, fight breaks out again. It is Kaiwing landing a 4-man Glacial Fissure. It's Rest getting targeted down. He dies without even using the ult, and now it is 5 strong of Frank trying to pressure them away. Dragon will most likely be looked at, but first it's Slaytrue. Nice boulder there, but will not be able to follow up for now. But now having this Kai'Sa damage on the Baron, you will take it a lot quicker. And importantly though, no solo kill Mega Gnar, so he won't have the impact he has in the former. Slaytrue walking up first.
Baron's already at half HP, dropping very low CFO. They have to find a way into this pit.
Yeah, fight goes off. It is going to be Kaiwing in the middle as well as Slaytrue. Eminem finds one. 3-man ult there from Jimmy, but he isn't able to find any. Eminem finds a second. Hollow finds one on the side. There's going to be Gemini going down. It is an ace for Frank, and they are going to get this Baron.
They will. They're going to grab this Baron. They should be able to get the Dragon as well, and you have to think they probably just grabbed their place in the finals as well. Up a lot of gold here on a comp that just looks unstoppable now. It's so hard for the likes of Shun to play into this, and you kind of saw, even though Jimmy and he used that stolen Gnar ult to great effect, he just doesn't have the damage to back it up. I think Frank now should be able to run away with this one.
Yeah, Frank just completely cleaning up again in this Baron team fight. Shun and Slaytrue try their best to walk through this choke point, but it's just so difficult, and Kaiwing as well, just finding so much zoning potential along with Pretender. They find the hook onto Pretender to start it off, but it goes golden, and then from there he buys so much time. Even with Jimmy and's huge 4-man Gnar ult, there's just no damage available because Shun is just constantly getting threatened in the backline by Hollow.
This game is pretty crazy. I want to point out in that team fight, Kaiwing blocked so much damage with that Braum. I believe it's W, but back to live now. The Dragon is still alive for the time being, but you have to think Frank will take that up and then begin their push onto these towers. I think it's kind of impressive at this stage.
11 damage from the Malphite.
Oh, that is such that's probably from the Bramble as well.
Must be, yeah.
that is such a tragedy. They'll find themselves a mid tower here, and they are importantly actually up in towers for the time being as Eminem finally matches for their first tower down on the bot lane. But it is going to be the third Dragon, and importantly, an Ocean Soul here is the chance for Frank coming up in 5 minutes.
Yeah, Shun tried to steal with the rocket, but it's just timing's not quite there. Good attempt though. And Frank, while they are firmly in the gold lead and the Dragon lead, as well as having the Baron in the back pocket, they still do have to be careful about how they close this one out because CFO, they have so many high impact ults that they can very easily, turn things around in a big team fight if they get all their key ultimates aligned.
Well, tip is used from Jimmy in here. Pretender will not commit to that one. It looks like they will turn their attentions just to this tower, and looks like it will be the second tower now going over for the side of Frank. And I feel like from here you have to start trying to make some moves on especially this mid lane tower as Kaiwing getting really aggressive there and showing that Braum's a better champ than Viego.
Yeah.
Does more damage at least.
More damage.
Now, there are still 2 towers standing here at mid, so a lot of standing gold that Frank have yet to access. Even top towers are up, so it's only now Frank really finding themselves more gold. Even if they can just break all the tier 1s here would be pretty nice for them. Are going to find themselves even further ahead in gold, and I think CFO probably do not have the wave clear, especially with the Silas, to be able to hold this one. Now, do Frank go towards top, or will they keep going down mid? It looks like they're going to try pressure mid. Nope, there's now pings onto that top wave. Even a TP coming out here from Pretender, so still ends up a pretty solid Baron power play, even if the base isn't quite cracked open.
Yeah, Frank's looking to slowly but steadily accelerate their gold lead. As you said, so much standing gold left on the map that's just honestly really easy to take when you've got the Baron buff available. You can tell from the gold graph as well. Frank just, off the back of multiple successive teamfight successes, able to plant themselves firmly in the lead.
Yeah, it feels kind of sad for Shun, because honestly he found himself in such a position where he could look for a lot of damage in fights, but ultimately just against the Annie, the Wukong, the Na, and also the Kai'Sa jumping on you, you really actually can't. and so the lead that he had, I mean, we saw it was like something like 1200 right earlier, and it just doesn't mean anything because the whole time, all you're able to hit is really this Wukong, who's currently 7-0.
Yeah, Hollow is just an absolute menace on the Monkey King so far in this game. Dishing out so much damage, and yeah, like you said, being that sort of sole threat on Shun in the backline. And I hate to be that guy, but we've got to bring it back to the Viego pick. What value was it really offering to CFO at this point in the game?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like it's offering a whole much. And the Silence as well, I think it could have been a bunch of different champions, right? We saw the Talia and the Syndra both hovered, and honestly feel like either of those would have been more impactful, especially in the early game, which was where Jimmy fell behind initially. Kind of curious that despite showing great games on both of those champions, doesn't prioritize them at all. Maybe just saw what Solokill was doing with the Nara and said, hey, I want to do that. Unfortunately, can't quite find the same impact.
Yeah, I think that's an important sort of fact to raise, is that even in this game, while it hasn't been the 4-man we saw last game, Solokill has continued to find really nice angles in these team fights to be able to zone important members of CFO, including Shun and also Jimmy, and also found like double Gnar ults on important members as well, forcing out sums from Shun, and it has really been so impactful, this Gnar. Even though he may have fallen behind early, even got solo killed early on, he's in these team fights at least, he's looked the better out of the two.
Yeah, Frank is just so far ahead that he doesn't need to find, those big 5-man game-changing ultimates. He really just needs to do his job at this point, and it should be Frank's game for the taking. CFO, though, their only real DPS is on the Shun. He does have the Lord Doms completed now, no Infinity Edge, however. He has the Phantom Dance as well instead of the Runins, which is interesting. I feel like he hasn't even been able to auto 4 times in these fights.
Risk getting really low, walking a bit too far up it looks. He's going to get a double ult, but it's not on the members you'd want. And now we see Pretender coming in, will flash, will land the tibbers, and with Eminem following up, that is Shun going down. Now we also see Slaytrue going down, as well as Gemini. There is only one member alive. It is Jimmy on the Silas as he gets looked at. But ultimately it looks like Frank are going to go through this bot lane and punch their ticket into the finals.
30-second death time is full side of CFO. Only Jimmy is remaining, but what can the Silas do by himself? Frank, they're looking to end the game right here and now.
I think he will, yeah. Jimmy, he can't steal any wave clear ults, I don't believe, and no, it's just going to die, it looks like. Does his best to hold on to this, but looks like Frank, 3-1 victory, are going to take this series and will be taking on PSG in the finals.
What a huge win from Frank, and so dominant once again. We saw them slip up a little bit in that first game, but from then on out, it just seemed like their series to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what an incredible sort of performance, particularly in those last 2 games, I want to say, out of, Eminem solo kill and also the rest of Frank. I mean, we saw Hollow that game was 7-0. He might have finished 8-0. I didn't quite catch that, but he was so unstoppable on the Wukong. And really, I mean, Viego has Heartstopper as his alt name, and all he really did was break the hearts of CFO.
Unfortunately so, and I want to say credit to Shun on CFO. Felt like he actually did what he could. Unfortunately, what he could just wasn't enough. There was too much threat on the side of Frank, and well-deserved win over to them. And this was CFO that actually took out Frank Esports' reverse sweep in the previous one, right? Also played against PSG and took them to 5 games. So, do you guys think that Frank entered the playoffs potentially as a favorite?
I would not say favourite. I would say, though, if they play how they played today, assuming that CFO were playing like equally as well as they did against PSG, I say they definitely have a shot. And I mean, CFO could have won that game against PSG is the crazy thing. And now we see, I mean, this was really dominating. I mean, they got behind a bit early game, but their macro and team fighting was just so immaculate, which honestly is not really how you typically think of Frank. I think most recently that maybe the Malphite Talia game was the only real example of it, but coming really into form are every single member of this team, and I'm so excited for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the biggest questions after yesterday's dominating series from Frank over Impunity was, you know, were they really just that much better? Were Impunity off their game? But after this